to the Walk Off Podcast, the final edition of the Walk Off Podcast, at least under the name the Walk Off Podcast. We are going to be switching everything that we have right now, branding, logos, name, all of it. It's all going to be different next week. I am Austin Bradley here with the principal, Jordan Ellsworth. Glad to see you. We have a lot to cover today. We are going to jump right into it with something just wild. Elly De La Cruz made his debut uh, 3 weeks ago at the most. Comes in and does this. You're going to see it come up on your screen. He becomes the youngest player to hit for the cycle as the Reds beat the Atlanta Braves 11-9, extended their win streak to 12, which since they have dropped two straight games, still playing incredible baseball, three really, really good games. That's crazy in itself to hit for the cycle at any point in your career is nuts. To do it about 15 games in at the most is just insane. So we're going to jump right into that. What does this mean for his career? When you come in and you set yourself up and you're just playing out of your mind, what does that do for your confidence? But also, what does that do as you try to then navigate, okay, what's going to happen whenever I start to slow down?
Yeah, I think the way he's come up and played is obviously giving him a lot of confidence. He probably feels like he can do anything. Probably feels a little invincible. But you know, like with every young player, how do they respond when they struggle? He's going to struggle. Uh, I doubt that he goes back down. Now, how big of a struggle that is, I don't know. It may just be a week where he hits 237 or something, which for some big leaguers is not a bad week. And as many strikeouts as we have in the game now. But yeah, I think it gives him a lot of confidence, and he's already shown us there's not much that he can't do. Um, it'll be exciting to see what that translates to. I mean, if the Reds were to make if the playoffs tomorrow and they were to make it, I mean, obviously the Cardinals wouldn't be in it, so they would be a team that I would root for sure. They're young, they're exciting. Um, that was a that was something incredible to watch the other night.
Yeah, it's insane. I think I've seen two cycles in my lifetime. I saw the one that Nolan Arenado had on the Phillies last year, and then I also saw the Elly De La Cruz one. It's just insane to watch this Cincinnati Reds team, who, let's be honest, they're not overloaded with talent. I don't think they're, but they've got, they're really connected. They're playing well. They've got the leadership. Having Joey Votto back, it's going to be interesting to see. They've lost two games. We talked a little bit earlier on in the season, whenever uh, whenever we were talking about the Pittsburgh Pirates and they started out so hot. How can they sustain it? Well, now they've lost a few games. They've lost a couple games in a row to an Atlanta Braves team who is the best team in the National League, probably going away. They might be better than their World Series team 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's crazy to think about. But yeah, I would agree with you.
It'll be interesting to see how they react. Can they bounce back? Will they bounce back? Or are they just going to crumble because you know, Pittsburgh, when they were playing so well?
Yeah, I think they finally hit that spot where we thought Pittsburgh was going to be. Honestly, if you've watched them the last couple of weeks, it's not that they're a bad team. I just think they're it. We're we're so far into the season where the law of averages have kind of averaged out. Okay, just go push it open. Um, that they're playing about where we thought they would be. They're 7 games under 500. Um, you know, but with the Reds, it's like, okay, how are they going to respond? We've seen how everybody else has responded. Milwaukee was hot to start the season. and then they've just kind of fizzled out. Pittsburgh's fizzled out. So is this a Reds team that's going to take a stranglehold on the division, or are they going to come back down to earth? And if I was a bet man, I'd say they're probably going to come back down to earth a little bit. Um, I think as crazy as it sounds, I think that's why the Cardinals still have a great chance to get back in it because all they have to do is get hot. If they win the next 10 games, uh, or they win 13 out of 16, now all of a sudden, they're back to 500 and um, they're in the race. So it'll be
No,
interesting to see what the Reds do.
I completely agree. I think a lot of what the Reds are going to do, I really, I've talked so much about this in the last few weeks. Is the Reds are the team right now. They are so close. They've got 3 weeks. They have 3 weeks that are going to make or break their season right now, and I'm going to tell you why. We're about 3 weeks away from the trade deadline. It's maybe a little more, maybe four, but you really want to get to that All Star break, leading the division or just right there, because again, only one. If we've seen anything this year, only one team from the NL Central is going to the postseason. I mean, I have no doubt in my mind, whether it's the Cardinals, the Reds, the Cubs get back in it. They've been playing well lately. We'll talk about them here in just a bit. Um, Only one team from the Central, unless a bunch of teams just fall off, um, is going to the postseason. So it's going to be interesting for me to see, can the Reds continue. They don't even have to sustain a 12-game winning streak. They just have to play, probably, we all talk about 500 baseball. They probably won't play 600 baseball the rest of the way, and that's probably going to be good enough for them.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, they just came off 12-game winning streak, so they're going to have to make sure that this doesn't become a losing streak. Yeah, they lost a couple, but I mean, come on, it was to the Atlanta Braves. So as
Right.
long as they don't turn around and lose 10 in a row, then uh, yeah, they just really. I think from here into the All Star break, you're right. They have to play 500 baseball, and I think to secure the division, at some point they're going to have to go on another big run. It doesn't necessarily have to be 12 in a row. It could be 20 out of 30, 25 out of 30, something like that. 25 out of 35, 25 and 10. Um, but, I think and that goes for anybody, um, to secure the division, you know, the Brewers are going to have to get hot again if they want to win it. It's looking like the Cubs are going to be in it till the end. So it's going to come down to who's got the one last big run in them, especially in August, September.
No, I completely agree. I think it's going to be. I mean, that is going to be everything. We are going to shift gears just a little bit, and we are going to talk about another two more teams from the NL Central. The Cardinals and the Cubs traveled to London, England, this this weekend to play a series. They played at 3 p.m. local time, or no, 12 p.m. local time yesterday, 9 a.m. this morning local time. Watched both games yesterday. For the Cardinals was a clunker, but the Cubs played really well. They were hitting everything. This is a Cubs team that I don't like, but I like them at the same time. And what I mean by I don't like them because I'm a Cardinals fan. The rivals, you're not supposed to like the Cubs, but I like them in the regard of I think they're a good baseball team, and I think they're right there. I think they're one or two guys away from really being in serious contention. Today, the Cardinals do get the 7-5 win. Jordan Hicks gets his fourth save of the season. Uh, the dimensions of that field, they said it was really, really bouncy. We're going to talk more about the big picture side of this in just a few minutes, but we'll talk about the series right now. When you look at that series, it's split. Everything is different. You've got the different time zone. You've got the turf that was said to be extremely bouncy. They said Trey Mancini actually walked around the outfield and dribbled the baseball like a basketball. They said it was. I mean, you could see that sometimes in hits. Talk about kind of what you think, and I'll kind of go into what I think. What can we take away from this series that ultimately was a split?
Uh, First thing I want to say, before we get into the Cubs, and just one more thing on Elly De La Cruz and his cycle. I don't know if a lot of people realize it. If you watch enough baseball and watch the ballpark they play in, uh, I should have said this earlier, but what was impressive is the fact that he got a cycle at home in Great American Ballpark. He's probably the only one that could get a triple, in the gap, without it taking a crazy bounce, and it really didn't. So I meant to add that earlier and didn't. Um, I thought that was really impressive. But getting into the Cardinals Cubs series in London, um, I didn't read much into the surface. I, you know, I thought the players did a good job not making an excuse. I know I saw Ollie Marmol talk about it a lot in a couple of articles. I don't think he was trying to make excuses for the team, but that's kind of how it was perceived by the media, and especially in St. Louis. Just based off some Twitter stuff I saw and a couple of articles from on the Post Dispatch. But and the reason why I don't read much into it is because when you go to these places, this is not a field that's there all year round. They don't have a team that plays in London 6 months out of the year. So that field has to be built within a matter of weeks. Maybe they just built it this last 2 weeks. And I say built the field. Obviously, they're not building a stadium, but they have to put the turf down. They have to bring in the dirt. I think they moved the fences back this time. I think when they were there in 2019, the fences were in a little bit. And of course, that was a year where the baseball was different. It was a lot livelier baseball, and so balls were flying out of the ballpark anyway. Um, but I don't read too much into that. I just wanted to make sure nobody got hurt with a different. It's a different playing surface because it's brand new. It may be similar to some of the field turf that we have in some of our stadiums over here, or baseball stadiums. Um, but it's new, and I just wanted to make sure nobody got hurt. And it looks like they got out of there without anybody really getting hurt from the turf.
Yeah,
That's my thought on the playing surface.
nobody got hurt on the turf. Marcus Stroman did have to be pulled from the game, I believe, after 5 innings today with a blister on his finger. Of course, that's something that Cubs fans will monitor, and baseball fans, as Marcus Stroman is having a Cy Young level year right now. He is pitching really, really
Yeah.
good. As far as the playing surface goes, it's one of those things you have to adjust to it, just like you have to adjust to everything. But it's one of those things. They split the series. One thing you talked about, and I'm going to hit on. You said the ball was flying out of the ballpark in 2019. Uh, there were 50 runs scored in the 2019 London series. There were 22 runs scored in the 2023 London series. So that's a big deal. We're going to stay on the London series for just a little bit here, and not just the London series, but the MLB also played the Mexico City series this year. They're going to go to Paris in 2025. They've been to Australia. As we look at all of these places, first of all, I absolutely love it. I'm going to say that right now. Out of the
Yeah.
way, I love that they're going everywhere. Expand the game of baseball everywhere. I absolutely love that. But as we look at these places in London, Mexico City, like I said, they're going to Paris. They're going to they've been to Australia. They're going to go back to Australia. There's talks and maybe even going to Greece. Sometime down the road. What does that do as a fan, both in America and also growing the game outside of America? What do you think that does? How much does that help to expand the game of baseball?
Um, from an owner standpoint and a commissioner standpoint, baseball, uh, this is what they want to do. You want to help the game grow. If you look at the NBA, they were probably one of the first ones, and the NFL's tried to do some playing. They play in London too. They had the European League. Gosh, it's probably been 25 years ago now, but 20 years ago. But the NBA has really done a good job of having a global game. I mean, if you look at the NBA draft every year, there's a handful of guys that are drafted that are from Europe or Australia or somewhere. Um, and so I think baseball has they've always went to places like Japan where baseball's kind of big, Korea, but they've never really branched out until the last 10, 15 years. They've been to Mexico City, London now. Um, it's going to help the game grow because it's going to bring in more revenue. It's going to bring in more money for the owners. Um, it may not be in my lifetime, but you could see an expansion team maybe at some point. That's years down the road. But if not that, maybe there's some kind of major league sponsored league in Europe, something to that nature. Um, but it does help the game grow because who knows, 10, 15 years from now, you may be seeing guys from England, France. They've talked about going to South Africa. They've talked about going to like a place like Dubai or, um, somewhere in South America. Which South America's, baseball's big there anyway. But um, I love it. I do. It's fun to see how they turn these stadiums into baseball stadiums, and I like the response from the people. I think they were sold out both games. At least it looked like that way on camera. I don't know that for sure, but it was loud. People were cheering, and it just goes to show you that I think baseball is a global sport. It is America's pastime, and I think there's more people in the world that like baseball than some people would like to think. You know,
Yeah, in fact, you talked about it being loud. Paul Goldschmidt was doing an interview with Fox last night, and a couple times he was like, "Sorry, what? Say that again. Repeat that." And then he said, "Sorry guys, it's really loud in here." Uh,
yeah,
so a lot of people are coming out. 55,000 people were in attendance today. 50,000, or I think 45,000 yesterday. About 100,000 people watched baseball in London, England. That's just in the seats, of course. You know, people in the states watching it as well. It's a big deal. You talk about different leagues. The Big Ten. They sent Michigan over along with Kentucky. Kentucky's not a Big Ten team. To London. Uh, they always do a football game in Ireland in week one. Dublin, Ireland. They have a football game over there. I like to see the American sports really branching out and getting, and because it grows fan bases, and maybe will encourage guys that are in London, England, or in wherever in the world that might not step out, take that chance to get involved with the game of baseball.
yeah, and I think you have to if you're baseball. There's so much it comes with it. To help people. Uh, to be an outreach. To maybe give that dream to a young boy or even a young girl, um, to play professionally in some kind of sport. It may not necessarily have to be baseball, but young boys in Europe, they watch, in London, they're watching this and they're like, man, I kind of like baseball,
Yeah,
and maybe it gives them a chance to dream for something like that. So I think that's really cool.
I do too. Next year, the Colorado Rockies will play in the Mexico City series. And speaking of the Colorado Rockies, you go to Mexico, it's extremely elevated. The high scoring ball games, obviously, it's elevated in Colorado. But Colorado did something interesting this weekend. What they did this weekend was they lost the series, not lost the series, but won the series, but were outscored by 22 runs. Of course, LA would beat Colorado by, I think it was 24-4 yesterday, and still dropped the series. As you see, that might be the most Anaheim Angels, Los Angeles Angels thing in the last 10 years that I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think it just goes to show you how inconsistent they are. Now, I will give them credit; they played better this year, and they are in the race. I mean, there's no doubt about that. They have a chance. more than they have. I don't know that that translates to a playoff spot, but I think they've done enough to not have to trade Otani at the trade deadline. Now they may still surprise us and do it anyway, uh, but they just don't have any pitching. I know they've drafted a lot of pitching the last couple of years, but until they start hitting on some of these guys and their talent, um, it's just hard for them to to really be one of the best teams in the league. Unfortunately, like their lineup. They don't have um, their third baseman. I'm drawing a blank right now.
Anthony Rendon.
Anthony Rendon. They don't have him. Um, Trout's been hurt the last couple of years. I know he's played a lot of games this year, but he was hurt for a big portion of the year last year. Um, if I'm not mistaken, one of their pitchers got hurt this week. I think I remember seeing that. Uh, but like I said, I give them credit; they have played better, but that's just a microcosm of the Los Angeles Angels. That's just kind of how they played the last 2 years,
You
unfortunately.
know what? I completely agree. As we are going to wind this down here, we got a couple more things to talk about. Just a quick hitter. LSU got bludgeoned today in the college side of things in the College World Series. Florida beats them 24-4 to force Game 3. A phenomenal Game 1. I don't know if you watched it. A good old fashioned pitchers duel. Went 10 innings last night. LSU did come out on top 4-3, and today Florida gets back at them all right and bludgeons them 24-4. Um, so when you do that, okay, so when you lose a game like that and you win Game 1, and it's only a best of 3 series, it's not like baseball, where it's best of 5 or even best of 7. You don't have time to wallow in your sorrows. You have got to flush it down the toilet because you're playing for a national championship now. This
Hmm.
isn't this isn't regular season. This isn't conference tournament. Like, tomorrow is for the national championship. Nothing else matters other than Game 3 tomorrow. How do you, as a player, and I'm a big sports psychology guy, and I really believe that losses affect people. Not just right now, but in the long run. I remember losses, as a player, and or not a player really, but because I didn't play except for, well, a couple as a player, in junior high, and then I remember losses as the team manager in high school, and then as a fan, of different teams. You know, two of the most evenings, days, whatever you want to say that I can see in my head all anytime I want to think about it is 2018. Michigan losing the national championship game, or Chris Taylor walking the Cardinals off in 2021. Obviously it's just sports. There's more important things, but I'm a big believer that losses affect you. When you get beat 24-4, you get beat by 20 runs, and you have not even 24 hours to turn the page, and you got to get back on that horse, and you got to do everything you can to win the national championship. What's your mindset if you're LSU? How do you approach that?
Well, that's a good thing about baseball. Um, well, two things really. In college baseball, or in most levels of baseball, you have it's double elimination or a series, or you get a chance to bounce back. Um, and the second thing is baseball's different than basketball, football. Sometimes when you get in these matches, you're just not the better team. I mean, you could play 10 times, and that team's going to beat you 10 times. You know, um, on the other hand, if we're talking about NCAA basketball, one and done. If you don't play well that day, then yeah, you could get beat and you're gone. But in baseball, it's all about the next day's starting pitcher. You know, so
Yeah,
if LSU starting pitcher comes out, and I'm not sure if they pitched their main guy or not already. He might have pitched game one. I can't remember, but he could come out and throw a shutout, whoever it is, and they win the game 2-0, and they're champions. On the flip side, if you're Florida Gators, you got to be really confident. Your offense is hot right now. And I think if you're the Gators, you got to come out early tomorrow looking to score 4 or 5 runs in the first 2 innings, first inning if you can. And I think if they do, then it's probably going to go their way. But that's the beauty of baseball is you have a chance to come back. It doesn't matter that you got beat 24-4. Your pitcher comes out and shoves. You could be the champion, and nobody even remembers the 24-4 game.
No, I completely agree. It'll be interesting to see how both teams react. Of course, a deciding game 3 tomorrow night at 6 o'clock Central Time, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. You're going to want to tune into that. I've got a feeling it's going to be a great, great matchup. So, we're going to wrap this up here. I know this has been a pretty short one, not a ton to talk about right now. I know next week we'll really be able to dive into some All Star stuff. I believe, actually, the next time we do a podcast, the All Star game will be the All Star rosters and starting pitchers will have been announced. If I'm not mistaken, I know at least the rosters will have been. So that will be the next time we do a podcast. The next time we do a podcast, it will not be called the Walk Off Podcast anymore. Of course, we discussed that a couple weeks back whenever we uploaded, and we said that we would be going away from the Walk Off Podcast. We're gonna give that back to its rightful owners. We're not trying to steal anything from anybody. So officially, as of July 1st, which I believe is Saturday, it's a week or 6 days from today.
Yeah, next Saturday. Yeah.
The Walk Off Podcast will become Bases Loaded with AB and the Principal. That is, I am AB. He is the principal. So.
Yeah.
We are excited for that. We'll have all new logos, probably new colors, everything. And shut up, Fox Sports. Sorry, my phone just Fox Sports thing. And we are stoked for that. It's an exciting thing. Obviously, should have done a little more due diligence, but either way, it is what it is. And basically, what you know, we're gonna keep throwing stuff out there. It's almost All Star Weekend, um, so yeah, that is that. I know that was about 30 minutes long. Um, Hopefully, we have a little more to talk to you about next week. All Star Game is always special. All Star Game is always special. All Star Week. It'll be interesting to see if they do like uh, the legacy picks. I don't really know who they would be except maybe Miguel Cabrera again for the AL. I mean, Adam Wainwright's been awful in the NL, so
Yeah.
maybe let him throw like to one batter or something, but he'd probably give up a home run.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know who you'd really go to on that. I mean, they might go to him. Last year when they took Pujols, that was before his hot streak. So,
Hey,
yeah.
Albert Pujols found something at the home run derby. He'll tell you that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So it could be one of those deals if they take Wainwright, an inning, or a couple of batters in the All Star game might turn into, a Cy Young performance in the second half. So you never know.
yeah, I actually
Uh,
bet a really good friend of mine that at the beginning of the season that before the season even started that Adam Wainwright was going to go out winning a Cy Young. I bet him dinner, so I'm definitely going to be buying him dinner at the end of the season.
yeah. Yeah.
Because he will
Well,
not be the Cy Young, most likely. He's going to have to throw
yeah.
like 5 no-hitters and not allow another run, and I still don't know.
Yeah. Well, that ship kind of sunk when he started out the season hurt. So
Yeah,
when you have injury, and you try to come back, it takes a while. And he came back to a team that wasn't playing very well.
right,
So,
right.
um, unfortunately for him, he's kind of fell into the same funk as everybody else. So, it is what it is. That's just Cardinal baseball for you this year. Hopefully, it turns around the next couple months.
That is correct. They're going to need to turn it around in order to get to the playoffs. If you're Cincinnati, you got to keep playing well. It's going to be interesting, guys. Again, we want to thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe and share this video on YouTube, on Twitter. Hopefully, here within the next coming months, we'll have a good Facebook page to get up as well. So thank you guys for watching. I hope everybody has a good week. We will see y'all next week, and everybody be safe. Bye, guys.